Okay, can we all settle down, please? Wow, that's pretty good. No waterfall, no claps. Can we make sure that everything is put away? No phones, no computers. Everybody facing front. So we've got a real treat for us today. I'm going to let Ms. Lowenstein introduce our guest speaker today. Before we get started, though, just want to welcome everybody back to the second semester. I think we have a couple of new students who I haven't met yet, actually. So welcome to those new students, and welcome back to the second semester. Let's make sure, guys, that this semester that we don't wind up being stressed at the end of the semester, wondering if we're going to pass classes. Let's make sure that we go into finals with A+, so that we do not have to be stressed in this final week of school this semester. So do I have a nod of agreement from everybody? Going into finals with what grade? A+. All right, Ms. Lowenstein.
Thank you, Dr. McCurdy. Hi, welcome back. Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video must be worth 1,000,000 words exponentially. Is that right, Mr. Nelsenberger? He'll be proud that I put a math equation in there. The video is of our speaker, Sharon Savoy, and she is here to talk to you about entrepreneurship, drive, passion, and also a little surprise competition for our school and our students.
Thank you. I know Miss Lowenstein as Sophia, so thank you, Sophia. Hi, I had just heard your principal say starting off the semester with A+ in mind, and it reminded me of a story. I came home one time with an all-A report card, and one of them was A-, and my father said, "What is that?" And I felt, I could have done better. It wasn't until years later that I thought, wow, he should have said, been really supportive and gone, wow, you got all A's and this, that, and the other. So that was kind of the family I was brought up with, meaning they had high expectations. It wasn't ever done mean. It wasn't ever done cruelly. It was kind of, we believe you can be here. And I think with that, from the beginning, in my life, that expectation from my parents allowed me to succeed. So when I see kids say, oh, my father's hard on me or my mom's hard on me, I think you need at least one parent to set that standard high. And so all of you must have at least one, or yourselves, because that does help you. So, and then I also walked into Sophia's class as we began meeting a little earlier, and she handed out a little flyer that said about making an impression in the first 2 minutes. And in my world now, because I've changed from being a dancer to a dance teacher and now a writer, they have something called the elevator pitch. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but in Hollywood, if you can't sell your screenplay between the time you meet the producer from floor 5 to floor 8, you've lost. That was your opportunity. So that is also very much so what you must do as a person. Who are you when you walk in the room? What energy do you bring to your project? So we often don't give someone 10, 15, 20 minutes to believe in their passion. You have to bring that with you at the very opening of who you are if you want to get someone else invested in what you're doing. But back to the speech about what I wanted to talk about today. We've all heard of our P's and Q's, but today we're going to talk about the 3 P's: passion, persistence, and having a pursuit that has a purpose. And I feel very lucky to have had all 3 in my life. Sophia told me to name my credentials, which is always kind of weird to do by yourself, but that's part of being an entrepreneur, I suppose, being able to say what you have accomplished and be proud of it. So I was a 3-time world champion with 2 different partners. I won Star Search. I won the Best Global Female Award a couple years ago. And I also won what is considered our Wimbledon, the Blackpool Exhibition Championships. All of that was done from those 3 P's: passion, persistence, and finding a pursuit that had a purpose. And I think it's easy. Hello? Oh, thank you. I think all of you are in a great school because obviously you already have a passion. And I think that's the hardest thing. That number one is the hardest. There are a lot of kids who go to the mall, do whatever. They don't have something that drives them, that kind of time of the day when you never see the clock move when you're working on your project. That is such a gift when you don't feel like it's work. My father also told me anything you do is going to be hard work, and work is a 4-letter word, so find something you love. And if you're not sure what it is that your passion is, keep trying stuff on like it's a different jacket or a different pair of shoes or a different pair of jeans until that fit feels like, wow, yeah, those fit. Because when I stopped dancing, I felt lost. Where is my next passion? Where is chapter 2? And I was faced with what most people are faced with at 16 or 17 or going into college. What do I major in? I was faced with that at 40, we won't say how many. And what do I do? What do I do that makes me get up in the morning and just feel so alive that that clock, I never, ever hear it tick? And I have to be honest with you, that took a while. So fast forward, I am now doing a combination of things, which is also an interesting change. So you may find points in your life where your passion consumes your entire pie. And that was what dance was for me for many, many years. Now I have several different slices of my pie that supply that creativity and make it a whole pie. But before I go there, I want to take you back. How old are all of you? About 16 average? 18? Okay. Well, then I'm going to go back to when I was 16. And that's the closest I can get to your age about my first experience, because when Sophia asked me to come here and speak to you, she said to me, I'd like you to speak as an entrepreneur. And I thought, how interesting. No one has called me an entrepreneur. I've been called many things. We won't go into the bad names. But the good names are writer, creative person, obviously dancer, teacher, but not entrepreneur. And I thought, gee, what does that name, what does that mean? And if you look in the dictionary, it's someone who takes more responsibility, usually financially, with a business endeavor. But I think it's so much more than that, because it's the entrepreneurial spirit of finding a passion and, even more importantly, finding a way to get that passion done. So I'd like to take you back. 16, I was getting off a plane from Flint, Michigan, not a very well-known town for anything good. And I landed in New York City at midnight. And I had trunks. This is the days of dinosaurs. I hope I don't bore you, but we didn't have actually roll suitcases. So at that time we had little corner trunks where we put our stuff, because then they became coffee tables. So I was sliding my 2 trunks across the cement, and it was midnight in New York, and I was 16 years old. And I finally got to my destination that my mother had written down, and it was the wrong address. Now, I had no one to call. Well, of course I could have called my parents, but I didn't have a cell phone. They didn't exist. I didn't see the reason to call. Why would I wake them up in Michigan and say, I'm stuck in the middle of New York City and I don't know where I'm supposed to go? So I figured it out. And I asked several passersby who, basically didn't have the time of day. It started to rain, and like, oh, maybe over there, and this, that, and the other. I did finally find the place. It was only a few blocks off, but it can be 154 West 65th, or it can be 165 West 54th. That's a 10-block difference. And when I got there, I had to sit on the steps until someone came home from their late night date. And that was around 2 o'clock in the morning. So I finally got in and I had to start school the next day. And when I wrote my first book, that is part of the story I wrote, because when I look back on that, what amazes me is not the ridiculous of it, not the midnight, not the scariness, not that, I was in fear for my life. I wasn't any of those. I was just determined to find where I was supposed to be, because I needed to get to ballet class the next day, and that was what was most important. So it never crossed my mind to call home, because what could they have done? So in there lies the entrepreneurial spirit. I had this passion, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from getting those point shoes on the next day and going to the School of American Ballet. And I think I spoke to someone earlier, Erica, I don't know if she's here, one of the teachers, and she also danced in her youth. The school I went to is considered the Harvard of ballet. It's the School of American Ballet, founded by George Balanchine. And there's only about 20 to 25 girls per class from all over the country. And it is highly competitive. And to give you an example, I was taught by all Russian teachers, and they didn't really speak English well. And their method of criticizing was quite interesting. They would basically, you would do a combination and they would say, "Why you make mistake?" And you didn't actually answer that question. You just very ashamedly went to the side and practiced. But I thought about that years later, and I was teaching a gentleman who was actually the highest ranking KGB officer who defected. And he wrote an interesting book, and we got to talking. He was my client, and I taught gyrotonics and Pilates for a while. And he said something so interesting to me. He said, "Why you make mistake?" In Russian, that's a compliment. And I didn't understand what he meant, because it was humiliating at the time. And he said, "They assumed you would know better. They would assumed you knew how to do it." So their method of teaching was not exactly the warmest fuzzy on the world. It was more like, figure it out, or you don't come back next year. And again, I'm not saying that's the best method, but what I'm saying is, if you want something, it's really down to you. You're the one who makes the difference. And I look out now when I see kids that I teach. I teach everywhere between 5-year-olds to 50-year-olds dance. And people often ask me, parents, etc., who's going to make it? We're not talking the 50-year-olds now, we're talking the young kids. And the real answer is, who wants it the most? Because at this point, you're in a school that's already telling you you're talented and you have exposure to a great way of learning, and you are being groomed to use your own mind. But in the end, who's the one that gets to the finish line? And then again, what is the finish line? So that's another thing I want to talk about. The finish line isn't necessarily the job. Maybe it is when you're 20, or maybe it's you made enough money to buy whatever it is you want. But the finish line, if you're a creative person, is to always be able to work in that petri dish where the clock doesn't tick. And that kind of finish line is something that gives back to you over and over and over. So my best advice to you is to find your passion, keep finding your passion, keep it alive by being absolutely strong about finding a way. You just absolutely cannot let anybody else tell you differently, that you're not meant to do this, or that that's not the right direction. If you believe strongly enough in it, you will make a way around that blockade. You will find a new road and a new way of doing something. And in that, you're also teaching yourself. You're teaching yourself such resilience by by not giving up too early. I forget what it was. I had a quote, I think, from Einstein. Oh, what did he say? It's not that I'm so smart. It's just that I stay with a problem longer. And I love that. He just had this incredible persistence, and he was willing to sit and think and ponder until he could figure it out. When I don't think I have a quick way to get to that picture, but there was a lift that I wanted to do with one of my partners, and it took standing in his hand in what's called arabesque. So basically, he was my floor, which when we first began the trick, it was kind of like the Keystone Cops. He was all over the place, and it was absolutely scary. We had huge mats so I could fall and just bail because it was very difficult to be in his hand and balancing just on his palm with my foot. We practiced that lift for 3 years before putting it into the routine we wanted, because the music was perfect and it needed that lift. I could have done the routine earlier. I could have done a different lift, but instead I said, no, this is how I want to do that routine. This is how I want to interpret artistically that music. And so I was willing to be patient and persistent. And it took a long time. 3 years is a long time of every day standing in someone's hand and every day falling until it was mastered. I think they say you have to repeat something 10,000 times before you master it. I'm sure 10,000 hours. That is a very good rule. I was told 10,000 hours if you're doing it correctly. So every time you do it wrong, you might as well, start at 9,999 again. But if you love what you do, it is something that gives back far more than a new trinket from the mall or a new shirt or blouse or makeup or whatever. It's just, those are wonderful little shiny trinkets that once you open the packaging, somehow lose their allure. But your passion never loses its allure because you're the flame underneath it. And I just can't begin to tell you how fortunate I feel that I found mine so young. The other thing I wanted to talk about was to find a pursuit that has purpose. Purpose beyond yourself, purpose for others, purpose to bring joy to others, purpose to bring better technology, better efficiency. Whatever it is, if it's something then that goes beyond what fulfills you, that will also come back to you tenfold. And so I would like to move on to my next little thing I'd like to read here. So one of the things I did when I stopped competing and I stopped performing, besides having 3 surgeries in 1 year, which was hip replacement, ACL, and foot surgery, I decided to write. And I'd already had my biography published and was working on a dramatic novel. And for some reason, I decided to write a children's book. And the children's book, the theme of it is all, of course, different animals who are the opposite of their stereotypes. So we have Arturo, the turtle who thinks outside the shell. We have Greta, the giraffe, who doesn't like to stick her neck out. We have Mr. Monkey Biz, who used to work on the real jungle of Wall Street. We have Roberta the snake, who doesn't like to blend into the grass. You get the idea. Anyway, so I happened to speak to Miss Lowenstein about my latest project, and we have set up an internship with Mr. Morris. Where will you stand up for me, Alice? Where is he? And he's going to be doing some of the illustrations for the inside of the book. And I want to thank him for joining us with that. And I'd like to share with you my ultimate goal for the book, because I think you're the generation that has the ability to put more into something than even someone who's paid to do it. I know how hard I would work on something because I loved it. And so we are going to run a contest at the school for the book cover. But my ultimate goal for the book is to have it be an audio book. And I'd like to have, if there's any composers in the room, talk to them about composing some music and have other people narrate or sing, because the book is written in a kind of a Disney style. That would be the ultimate, that we could somehow get the attention of some Disney producers. And that a lot of the poems that are written are actually songs. So I'm going to share with you 2 of the poems right now. All right, now this is Roberta. I paint my lips red and wear purple mascara. I'm a Balboa constrictor who loves my tiara. All my other friends like to blend in. What a crime, I say. Color is not a sin. I prefer to stand out and be seen in the crowd. I'm more than scales and slither, can't live under a shroud. I could become camouflage, blend with the branch of a tree, but then I'd be like every other snake in the grass, and I wouldn't be me. I need color, I need sparkle, I need to be seen. I would wither on the vine if I only wore green. The other serpents are jealous, they covet my beauty. They're green-eyed and venomous of my shapely booty. I have curves, I've got moves, and the charm of a snake. Men fall head over heels, I'm a 10 for goodness sake. Who can refute or deny my beguiling glamour? When I wrap myself around a man, he can barely talk, only stammer. Now I come hither, look, instantly enchants. When I bat my eyelashes, men don't stand a chance. I never met a mirror I didn't like. I adore attention, it's my preferred vice. I'm the queen, a prima donna, and a demanding diva. If you don't remember me, you must suffer from amnesia. Some call me high maintenance, a compliment, if you ask me. I dress as I please and make no apology. I'm a femme fatale, a fashionista to the core. I'm the Balboa of them all and cannot be ignored. So follow my lead, strut, slither, sink, or swim. Live your life your way, love the skin you're in. So the story of the Jungle Book, it's not the Jungle Book, I keep using that, it's Zulia's Wild Adventure. And Zulia is a name in Arabic that means peace. And she is sent out into the jungle by her grandfather to stop the bull named Bully, B-U-L-L-I-E, because he's threatening the tribe. In the end, she gathers all these very interesting animals to help her in her quest, and they work like a team to defeat, first of all, the bully, who then comes to the rescue of the elephant, who is hunted for his iris, and at the very end, they capture the poachers. So I'd like to read you one more poem, and this is the first one was for the girls, I guess, or maybe it was for the boys, I'm not sure. And this one is more in line with if all of you know some finance. So this is Mr. Monkey Biz, and he worked on the real jungle of Wall Street. I wasn't the wolf of Wall Street, nor as greedy as Gordon Gekko. I like to sell high, pull the plug on the buy, double down when stocks hit zero. I swung high and hit for the fences, levered gains, took risks, bold chances. I rolled the dice, felt the rush of the vice as I played with my clients' finances. I thrived in the cement jungle. Money smelled greener than leaves. I wanted to score just $1 million more with my shrewd Ponzi scheme. Oh, I was a hotshot day trader, a financial whiz that mainlined the jizz. I lived in the now for the soaring Dow. It was all Wall Street monkey biz. I was an adrenaline junkie, sold penny stocks, blondes, and blue chips. The S&P meant more than family. I was addicted, didn't know when to quit. I got juice from insider trading. My strategy, win at all costs. I chased the golden goose, played fast and loose with the statements of profit and loss. The day the stocks took a nosedive, my world took a perilous fall. The market crashed, I'd run out of cash, it was over, I'd lost it all. Oh, I was a hotshot day trader, a financial whiz that mainlined the jizz. Fortune swayed to the beat and the heat on the street, it was all funky monkey biz. I was totally out of commission and I thought I was losing my mind. My past caught up, I totally screwed up, put in jail and had to serve time. I used to fret about money, stay up and worry all night. An accounting mistake or the big bubble break? Am I leveraged too far or too tight? Sometimes I miss the excitement. Trading stocks set me afire. I liked to gamble, but my life was a shambles. It was time to move on and retire. I ended up here in the jungle, got me a second chance. Lost my career, but don't dare go near money, Wall Street, or finance. I no longer have nightmares or itch for power and fame. Instead of finances, I swing from the branches and enjoy this jungle terrain. So embrace and enjoy your surroundings, the sunlight and beautiful trees. There's a bananas aplenty, no stomach is empty. What else could you possibly need? Oh, I'm a reformed day trader. Get my jizz from Amazon juice. Don't say maybe, come hang with me, baby. Keep it loose, keep it loose, keep it loose. So anyway, I am going to open the floor to questions, but before I do, I want to remind you that we're going to have a contest for the book cover. I'll be happy to send the synopsis out or the entire book to Miss Lowenstein so you can get an idea. And in the back of your mind, also, I would love to speak to some kids who would like to compose, because that should be like a funky rap song, and obviously I don't do that very well. And okay, and then Roberta's song should be more of a blues. I don't sing, I don't compose, so I would love this to be a team project. And I think it would be very cool to bring to Disney something that was all done by the efforts and the creativity of the wonderful spirit of your school. And thank you. Okay, Q&A time. Any questions? Yes.
So, I believe that compassion, specifically compassion towards yourself, is the highest virtue of humanity. In between those 10,000 hours of endless repetition, obviously you're a very successful dancer and performer. How did you find that balance between work and welfare?
I'm going to first answer your question a different way. Compassion, I think, is the hardest thing for a ballet dancer to find. There's no doubt about it. There's a high rate of eating disorder, and the mirror is supposed to be a very helpful, reflecting tool, but that can be the most evil, horrible thing you look at every single day. And it is the strongest thing that I try to teach my girls, especially the girls going through puberty. It is so difficult to try to separate not being perfect. Perfect took me a long time to learn. Perfect really is kind of great in a still picture when you're dead. But passion is alive. And so compassion means kind of like finding comfort in your passion. And I think the mirror is something that you have to learn to have a separate set of eyes for, or you can be so cruel to yourself. So the balance for a dancer is usually very imbalanced for a long time. And I think the teachers nowadays are trying to make a real effort to not talk to girls like I was spoken to. I had a Russian gentleman come up to me. I was the weight I am now, and he said, "You look too healthy." And that meant you're too fat. And that was rough. That was rough. And there was no one to talk to. I lived alone in an apartment, so there wasn't anybody to come home who would have said, "Oh dear, don't listen to him. All right, let's have you eat more nutritiously," or whatever would have been necessary to make me look more healthy, but in a ballet way. So I think finding compassion for yourself is that is a hard one. That's a lifelong, because we don't want to be a slave to our passion. That's not fun. That's like being attached to a grindstone and you're not in charge of when that wheel's turning. And so I think to learn to step outside yourself, and the fact that you can even ask that question and have that perspective is hugely mature, and I applaud you for having that. I think that perspective should be taught more, especially to girls. I know boys have their own, both sexes. We all have these standards of what is cool to be a guy and what is beautiful or whatever to be a girl, and we're always struggling to say, wait a minute, I'm me. And what is interesting about my career, I wasn't the most competitive school in balancing school. I did dance in ballet companies, but to my mind, for years, I didn't make it because I didn't make it. I sprained my ankle the night before I was supposed to go into the company for New York City Ballet. And once you sprain your ankle, it's like you're a shot horse. Goodbye. And they just move on because you're damaged goods. So I danced in several smaller ballet companies, but where I found my niche was in the ballroom world. The performance you saw was from Paris. And what I did was more similar to pair skating and ice dance, which is all the lifts. And I got to create my own work. And it was there that I found myself, because in the ballet companies, I was asked, do it like so-and-so. You won't know these names, but Makarov, Gelsey Kirkland, Suzanne Farrell, they were all the stars of the time. Look like her, dance like her, be her. That they wanted that. They wanted a clone. And when I got into my own work, it was more about, gee, how do I want to interpret this? And at first, I have to tell you, I didn't know. It was a learning experience. It was a maturing experience. And I am so grateful that happened. I'm so grateful I left actually the ballet world and made a name for myself in a world where I found my niche. And that's really where I found where I belonged and was able to excel as a dancer. Any other questions? Oh, I was always late. Most ballet dancers start like 3 or 4, and now they would tell you 5 or 6. I started at 9, and I started in a basement in Flint, Michigan, which has its own notoriety now, Flint, Michigan. It wasn't that bad then. GM was a big car producer in the town, and it was a thriving town when I lived there. I had the great fortune of a gentleman came from Europe and saw me in a class, and he took my mom aside and said, you should let her go train. And I was the oldest child of a family of 5. I have 4 brothers. And my mom went, train. That's different than taking ballet class. And I really did take it a little dinky little studio. We couldn't jump very high because the ceilings weren't high. It was a cement floor, which is terrible. And he saw me at this summer course. And from there, I went to one summer to North Carolina School of the Arts, and then I went to the School of American Ballet in New York. But it was tough. I had less professional training before I got to the school than the other girls. So School of American Ballet really is a finishing school, and I was nowhere close to finishing, but somehow I made it in. Any other questions? Ask me anything. It's more fun if you do. Yes.
This girl right here needs to be the new narrator for your audiobook. She has the perfect voice for it.
Well then speak.
Hello. Her name's Cindy. She would be the best. She needs to do it.
And what is your name?
I'm Sarah.
Sarah's promoting Cindy. Okay, Cindy, you're up. Well, we have a lot of voices in the book. We have, like I said, a turtle, a giraffe, a snake, an elephant, a monkey, Zuela, who is the lead character, a grandfather, and a group of starlings. And they all have their own set of poems, which some are songs and some are just narrative poems. So I would love it. I would love it if all you would somehow decide on which friend you wanted to push forward who maybe is too shy but would love to do a narrative for a book. Any other questions? Anybody? Oh, come on. Nobody wants to ask me how scary it is to do that last drop, how many times I fell.
How scary is it to do that last thing?
Well, that was very original. Well, I fell once. It's a lift where you have to grab your ankles. I don't know how many of you saw it. It's called the donut drop. And I basically slide down his body. But I fell once on my face, and I learned to have a better grip ever since then. So that they say, have a good grip on life. I learned that one that day. Anything else? No? You guys are a quiet crowd. Oh, well, thank you. I think, everyone goes through valleys and everything, and I had a real downtime when I stopped competing. I left my partner. We split. There was a lot of personal stuff going on, and I went through my first ACL surgery, and I was not a prima donna or anything like that, but I was at a studio, and I had to come in on crutches to teach, and I was told you can't park in the front, even though there was ice and it was January, like today in the East. No, you need to park in the back and walk on crutches because the clients come first. So I went from dancing all over the world. I danced in Paris and China and all over Europe and South Africa and South America, to going to a small little studio where people said, fan, please, put on the fan. And I liked teaching, but I didn't like the situation. And I wanted to teach people who weren't there just to kind of do their 60 minutes of exercise. I wanted people who were kids who were there, who were dying to learn, who, when you said grand jeté, they say how high. And so, teachers will teach anybody who's interested. And if you find a teacher who will teach you or is interested in you, you grab onto what that person says. I still remember different things that I was told by certain teachers to this day, since I was 15. And for example, one of my most significant mentors came later in my life. He was in Baryshnikov's class in Russia, and he did not defect. He was the prince, which is one of the reasons Baryshnikov, does anybody know here who Baryshnikov is? Some people, okay. Baryshnikov is the Michael Jordan of ballet, okay? And he defected because he was a little bit too muscular. They wouldn't give him the lead roles. They gave him the secondary roles, and he was a brilliant dancer. He is the most iconic name for male dancers of the 20th century. Anyway, the gentleman who was my mentor stayed in Russia and had the prince parts. And he was absolutely adamant that once your hand hits the bar, you go to this zone, and it doesn't matter if the other guy around you is doing the absolute wrong thing. You must focus on yourself. So you must create this work bubble where nothing interferes with your goal and your sense of purpose. And just some wonderful people I felt I've had. And now I'm in the position of teaching, and absolutely I feel like I'm channeling them when I'm, giving a combination or giving corrections, because I want people to feel like they walk out lighter and feel a sense of transcendence because they put their finger on that live wire called passion, and they felt what it's like to really just engage fully. And dance, for me, engaged both mind and body. Any other questions, comments? Sophia? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me, and good luck in your semester.
Thank you so much for your attention. I know that we have many speakers during this Internship Speaker Series, and it's okay. The thread that's woven with all the speakers is find your passion. It's okay if you don't know where it is today, but hopefully this series will bring different perspectives and people into your view, and hopefully it will help you figure out what your purpose is. And in school, we could teach you to develop those skills that you need to become entrepreneurs and passionate about your field. So thank you on the first day of the new semester. Much good luck to you. And, yep. Ms. Loughran?
If people are interested in auditioning or providing a voice or providing some sketches, how do they do that?
So Sharon, could we take this right now?
I think Sophia and I are going to work out, sorry, Miss Lowenstein, excuse me, and I are going to work out how we can do that, like kind of a email submission. I think I put together some, little blurb about what each character is. They should get a chance to look at that or read the book. It's not that long as a children's book. And then let their imagination go with that. It has to be color because kids need color, of course. And then, the secondary plan would be the composition for music, and I would have to probably come back to the school because it's pretty specific. Like you can hear, like I said, I don't rap, but you could hear how that could be a rap song if I was a good rapper. All right, here we go.
And that's it. Thank you. To your 5th period. Thank you.
All right, critique me.